What's up, Brian? How you doing?
I'm doing well. Excited.
Aren't you excited? You know what always gets me excited? Like, where am I going to cut us in during that intro? Like, I'm always waiting to just catch everybody, like off their kilter, I guess. I don't know. How you doing, Brian?
I'm doing good. And you caught me off kilter too.
Good.
Yeah.
Good. I like the shirt. Retroactive. You got a pimp for your cousin there. I like that.
That's right. Pick it up from Humanoids.
I still haven't read that. I need to read that. Anyway.
Oh man, it's fantastic.
Welcome everybody to Pop Culture Philosophers. Tonight we got a great conversation. I say tonight, it's today. It's the morning for us. It's night for this dude. So let's go ahead and bring him in. John Lees. Back to the show. It is like your third or fourth time being here. So.
Yeah, I'm like, I should get me a special jacket like the hat.
I think we owe you a jacket now.
Repeat guest. I know I was heard about catching people short, like the whole time, that little musical intro was playing. I was like, you've got an itchy nose, you've got an itchy nose, you've got an itchy nose, you've got an itchy nose. Like don't scratch it. It's like, of course, like the second come on, but like.
And then we pop in and you're like, damn, I'm still backstage. Anyway, we got John Lees here. And we do owe you a jacket. Just send us your measurements, and as soon as we send out Joe Corralo's, we'll send yours too. But thank you for coming back. You got a new book coming out with Joe Mulvey. Joe is scheduled to be on the show. Hopefully he will make it. He's running a little bit late, but whether he's here or not, we're gonna have fun with John.
I've got my phone on the ready for live to the second updates about what's happening. Oh, he said I've just got a message from him saying he's having trouble signing in, so I'm going to see if I can send him another link. 1 second.
Okay.
I'll try and multitask, so just keep on talking.
John's doing the Lord's work right now. I'm going to tell you that. So anyway, today we're going to be talking about their newest book, which is going to be coming out at some point soon, from Aftershock Comics, The Last Ride of Pillar and Pride. I read it. Brian's read it. Brian, what do you think?
Oh man, I absolutely loved it. Another great first issue.
I've been really disappointed. Like, oh yeah, it was shit, pal. Sorry.
Absolutely loved it, man. It was just like a great introduction to the characters, and then leaving you, establishing enough, but then knowing that there's going to be a whole lot more, and then leaving you with a pretty satisfying cliffhanger, and I actually was shocked a couple times because the way you had it paced, I was like, I just wasn't expecting anything bad to happen, and all of a sudden it did. I was like, whoa, I was like, this is
that's exactly the kind of experience we want people to have, because it's in some ways it's kind of a weird book to try and pitch because it takes such big lurches in tone. And the thing me and Joe have been saying about the book is that it constantly pulls the rug out from under your feet. Like the whole idea we had, when writing this, is this kind of big game of yes and then, essentially, where it starts off in one place, and when you're reading issue 1, you have no idea what you're going to be feeling by issue 3. And when reading issue 3, you have no idea what you're going to be feeling by issue 5. It keeps on changing genres. Even in this first issue, it's very kind of knockabout comedy at first, and then kind of takes a dark turn at the end because it's me, and things always take a dark turn, it seems. But hopefully that kind of light touch is going to be kind of kept throughout the book as well.
All right. Well, it looks like Joe has gotten the link and he's ready. And let's bring him in, everybody, for the first time on Pop Culture Philosophers. And we've seen him in the chats, but we've talked about his work. But here he is, Joe Mulvey. What is up, buddy?
Guys, I apologize.
Big shot on us. Come on.
No.
I demand to come in after, but I'm the main event here. He's saying I'm the main event talent. Let everyone else do the warm-ups, and then I'll saunter in.
All right. Take it down, Scotty. What I know is that I like to work in tandem with John because most of the time I work as his translator. So for anyone who doesn't understand what he's saying, please just put it in the notes below. And
these are my pals. I'm a repeat guest here. They all speak Scottish now. You're the outsider. They're like, what is that voice? I don't understand it.
Yeah. I apologize, guys. For some reason, I was having trouble on my MacBook with the link. So now that's why you see me in this nice, pretty black on both sides of me thing that I had to use my phone. So I apologize.
You stand out because you arrive fashionably late. You're in a different format than the rest of us. You're standing out, and I really like that, Joe.
You know what? Thank you.
He's actually got 2 giant black pillars on either side of him just to kind of create that.
No one knows that, John.
Sorry to give away the stage
secret. I just walk around with 2 foam black pillars around me at all times, and no one knows it.
That reminds me when I used
the
to
phone holder, so it just sits there.
I used to have like a VHS recorder, and I was trying to make movies, but I was a big guy. Like in the VHS days, I would buy the widescreen editions if I could. I put 2 pieces of electrical tape over the lens so that it would look.
Yeah.
Hell yeah. So Joe, thank you so much for joining us. John, why don't you tell us a little bit? What is this book? What's it about?
Okay, I thought I'd scared Joe away there. He's like, oh no, if John's talking, I'm going. You know? So the last round of Pillar and Pride is kind of genre mashup, horror, mystery, comedy, slice of life, drama, everything else you might want to throw in a pot. It's about these 2 friends, Ben Pillar and Eli Pride, who have known each other their whole lives, going back to like they were kids, and they had this like really like extreme formative experience in their youth that kind of shaped the whole course of their lives. They ended up becoming unlikely heroes, and they saved this girl's life, and kind of became like, you know, local celebrities for a time, and they kind of used this to kind of parlay a career as like moderately successful like young adult novelists, kind of telling like books that are kind of like stories of fictionalized versions of themselves, often adventures. But now, like as we begin the story, they're both grown up now. The kind of 15 minutes of fame have expired. They're both kind of drifting apart. Ben is like off to like, you know, he's got a fiance, he's got a new job lined up. He wants to kind of move on with his life. While Eli's kind of like stuck in the same spot. He wants to keep on pursuing the writing dream. He keeps on, you know, he's kind of like stuck in the past. So they come up with this idea of going off on this road trip off to like their old hometown. And for Eli, it's it's the way of like re-sparking the friendship and kind of getting inspiration for the next book. But for Ben, it's like goodbye. This is like our last thing together before we go off our separate ways. And he's trying to find a way to tell Eli this. But when they get back to their old hometown, like things seem quite strange. Like things aren't quite right. And they soon realize they've stumbled into like a very real mystery with possible connections to this event from their childhood. And things kind of get increasingly crazy from there. We've been kind of saying it's like a Stephen King book directed by Edgar Wright.
Okay. Yeah, I loved it. I thought the first issue was great. It really did a great job of introducing me to these characters. They're kind of like the Hardy Boys, right? Or something like that. Or the wannabe Hardy Boys, right? And you get the idea.
Hardly Boys.
Yeah, the Hardly Boys. I like that.
The Hardly Boys. It's the next generation. Because for anyone listening, the book starts out with our one of our main protagonists, Ben Pillar, literally on the toilet, looking very nervous. And I said, if anyone knows John and I, that's the only way that a book of ours would have to start off, with a guy on the crapper.
Yeah.
And like,
no, because obviously like me and Joe have like a long history of being friends for like going on 11 years now. And like Dumps is kind of an extra play linked to like our friendship. Like, you know, every year, like when we meet up in New York, like Joe, like, come here, John, I've got a new shit story to tell you. You know, like, you know.
But the best is John sends me this pitch and goes, "Tell me what you think about it." And then I'm like, like skinny, bookish guy with glasses, hangs out with a guy who's a big hockey guy, wears hockey stuff all the time, and is very obnoxious and outgoing. And I'm like, so you just made us into characters.
Thank you so much for calling me skinny, Joe. That's the nicest thing anyone said about me in a while.
Yeah.
Well, yeah. By the way, John, your Halloween costume was one of my favorites of this year, where you were your own character from Crimson Cage, man, and you went all out, man.
I'm both Frankenstein and the monster, you know. So
I was going to say, if we, you know, when we send you the jacket, if you don't mind putting the costume back on and getting the jacket with that'd be great for us.
Yeah, okay.
I can't wait to get a cardboard cutout of John in that character and just have it at every single convention I go to, and it's going to be #SignTheDong. And it's going to be everyone gets to like, you know, do some signature work there.
I'll tell you though, like I will say, like I've never done more careful pissing in my life than like wearing like, you know, like white tights for the whole Halloween party. Don't want any troubles.
If I was a local comic shop near you, John, I would want you dressed up like that when you did signings for the Crimson Age collection.
Just do it in character, just like do my best, like Louisiana accent, like, you know, for the evening.
I would love to hear that. I would love to hear you do a Louisiana accent. That'd be great.
I'd have to go workshop it for a couple of months, like Daniel Day-Lewis, like, you know, going method, you know, and I'll come back and I'll have a mastered accent.
He's like, yeah, it's nice having John at the shop, man, but this is too wild, dude. He's got so many.
Like, who's John? It's only Chuck that's here.
John, I mean Chuck.
I love it. I love it. So, Joe, I first became aware of your work with Wailing Blade with Rich Dewick, which I thought was phenomenal.
Thank you so much.
I love the work there. And then just recently, you recently wrapped up Happy Hill, right?
Yeah.
So
with
now,
Rich again. Yes.
With Rich again. So now you got this coming up. What made you want to join this? Because you and John have been homies for a while, and you've done some work like here and there, but this is your first full-fledged big thing together, right?
Yeah, 100%. And honestly, it was just John, because like John and I have been at conventions for years and years and years, and like being like, oh, we got to find something that would really work towards both of our, you know, fan bases or whatever. And I even tell the story that like someone after Wailing Blade in my LCS was like, oh, you're doing horror next? That's a horrible mistake for you. You're just not you're not a horror artist. You're too like cartoony and too whatever. And I'm like, I feel like for the story John was telling in Pillar and Pride, like my art fits it to a T, because like it's really about these two buddies coming together. And, you know, like I feel like, and I've heard this from a lot of people that saw the preview of the first issue, that no matter how it's going to go, you're going to feel like you have your own take of how it's going, depending on where you are in life, right? Like you have friends that are like either coming together. Like I've grown up with a bunch of buddies. We're all friends to this day. And then you have those buddies that, you know, get involved with someone, have a boyfriend, girlfriend, or a life partner, and all of a sudden they, you know, start to trail off. Friendship doesn't matter as much. They're kind of getting pulled in different directions. And then, you know, it's something you can really relate to. But on top of all of that, I think this is like one of John's funniest books ever. Because again, like I said, we're starting the book off on the crapper. We have a scene where, like, you know, one of the most threatening characters in the book wears literally John's yoga pants, because the guy's a yoga instructor. And I used the reference.
And George was like, send me some of yours. I need to have dress up like
yeah. I didn't know that a lot of yoga pants have the crotch cut out like John wears, but whatever. I mean, you couldn't do that in the book. Yeah.
Yeah, just like a content warning for.
Yeah. Well, I didn't know what the sagging haggis meant, but now I know, John. Now I know. So, but I mean, like between John and I mean, this is like the perfect vehicle for the two of us to work together, because we could do comedy, we could do action, and we could do horror. So it's going to be, you know, when it gets in people's hands, I think it's going to be a real fun book for people.
Yeah. I love the first issue. It had me hooked in. And what I love about it is one of these dudes doesn't feel like he's ready to let go. Right. And it's so sad, because that's something that we all see in our lives when like you grow apart from someone, or just somebody used to hang out with. It just gets awkward over 20 years and all this kind of stuff. So I really liked that. And I loved how there was something at the end. The hook is something that ties into their big thing, right? That made them these moderately successful mystery writers, right? And it is, I think, you know, John, I love your work. I don't think it lends itself, any of the stuff you've done, necessarily to comedy. This one did, and it's a rather funny book, man.
Yep.
So, like, well done there. But horror and comedy, I think, are very close together. You know what I'm saying? But was the approach different in this one, John, with your scripting, with how you're handling it? Because your other books are very moody and tony and freaking awesome. But like this one's great too, but in a different way.
Yeah, it's interesting. Like, you know, I do think that, like, you know, comedy is something I've been interested in doing, like, more with, like, you know, for a while. Like, I remember, like, I was doing, like, a lot of, like, real dark horror type stuff. And a couple of years back, I went off and wrote Depender, which was a kind of like a comedy book, you know, which I still, like, liked a lot, but it never really went anywhere. We pitched it around, like, you know, and it never really kind of got picked up by anyone. But the experience of writing that I felt was really informative. I then brought that back into my horror writing. And I think it actually made my horror writing better, because I kind of feel like, yeah, like it's one, you know, I've done like super serious dark comedy stories, and that's fun as well. It can be satisfying if you're building up an oppressive atmosphere. But I think if you can have like something be funny, not only does it like lighten the mood at certain points, it can disarms people. So when you have the scary stuff happen, like it almost hits harder because you've kind of like had people. I won't spoil it for anybody who's not seen it yet, but a prime example of that right now is like Barbarian, and like the cinemas and like that, which I absolutely loved. And that's a movie like where like you're literally like going back and forth between like you're watching like this, and then it'll undercut like where something just makes you laugh, or it's the other way around where you're laughing and just mid laugh like something horrible happens. I think like that's a really kind of like fun experience. I think like, I'm sure I've said this before, like but I think horror and comedy are very closely linked, like thematically, like which is why like you'll often find like that some of the scariest stuff, like, is like 1 degree away from being hilarious. And some of like, the most funny stuff is like 1 degree off of being terrifying. Like sometimes if you notice, like, and I think I've told this story before, like about 2 anecdotes. Like first anecdote, I went to see Hereditary in the cinema. Horrific movie, like genuinely harrowing and dark and upsetting and like traumatic. One of those movies that I watched once and I haven't been able to watch again because it was so like, really grim, but also really funny. Like, people don't want to admit how funny Hereditary is, and it was. I remember I was in the cinema, like the really like harrowing ending. It's pitched at such a level that like, the audience started laughing, and once one person started laughing, everyone started laughing because like it's kind of contagious, and it's not because it doesn't work. It's just because like you're kind of like And same thing, Texas Chainsaw Massacre. People look at me like I'm a psychopath when I say this. I think that last scene in the kind of cannibal house, when it's the old guy and he's trying to hit him with the hammer and he can't hold the hammer and he keeps on dropping it. I was laughing my ass off when I watched that. I think that is like hilarious. It's horrifying, but it's also funny.
Yeah, like when TCM 2 came out and everybody's like, "Oh, this is a comedy now." Toby Hooper is like, the first one's a comedy.
Yeah, no, I'm so glad that people are starting to warm to Texas Chainsaw Massacre 2. I love it. I think it's genuinely a really good, like it's the ultimate antidote to this pure puffed up, self-serious, like mythologizing of like, legacy properties. David Gordon Green Halloween. It's like when you watch it, the best analogy I've had to describe it is if the first one's like some second-hand account of this terrifying, horrific, real thing that happened to somebody. Like, the sequels, like somebody took that story and made like a debauched roadside stage show of it, they kind of like lights. But bringing this back around to Power and Pride, I think that for me, like, it's been a nice kind of flexing of different muscles, like to be able to kind of like have that touch of levity. And I think if it had just been 2 people, like, that are thrown into this situation, it would have maybe felt a bit perfunctory. But because you get to see Ben and Eli be dumb, be stupid, have this banter with each other, I think that once the horror mechanics properly kick in, hopefully if we've done our job, like you'll be more invested in them. So you'll like feel you care more about them, like, because that you've laughed with them and maybe you've cried with them a couple of times as well as the story goes on. So you'll be actually invested in where things go. And to go back to Joe's point when he was saying, like, some guy at the comic shop said he's not a horror artist. Fuck that guy. Sorry, I'm not sure if I can swear, but that guy doesn't know what he's talking about. For me, like, I think, like, I actually really love that light touch in horror. I think Alex Cormack has a light touch. Like, people don't recognize it, but he actually has real good comic timing, and he has nice expressive faces in a way that's quite similar to what Joe does. I kind of like that touch for a horror book. I think it adds a bit of energy to it. And I think Joe's the perfect, like he says, is the perfect artist to draw this book. Like the whole vibe of it, the whole kind of like, pop it has wouldn't be the same anybody else. And Joe's the perfect partner for this book.
Yeah. The artwork really works. First of all, I'm glad you mentioned Barbarian. I just watched that this week because we covered it on Dylan's Horror Show last night. I watched it. I loved it. And then at the end of Act 1, I just laughed. Like, that was all I could do was just laugh and be like, I cannot. And that movie took me into places I never thought it was going to take me to.
Yeah.
Just like it does the characters in the story. And I watched it and I was like, this is probably the best movie I've seen all year. And then like the next night I watched The Northman. And now I'm like in this like crisis about trying to figure out which one I like better. Joe, yeah. I love your work. And John's right. A dude that said you're not a horror artist. Fuck that. Because style is style. That's a unique thing to you. But that doesn't have anything to do with genre. And you've shown this in things like Happy Hill, for instance, right? And I'm curious about your approach. Did you try to did you just go about this like, I'm going to do it? Like when you get into the more darker aspects, did you try to do something different, or do you were like, I'm just going to like lean into what I do?
Well, I actually started to try change my style a little bit, going from Wailing Blade to Happy Hill, where I tried to put in a little bit more black and a little bit more darkness and a little bit more like not leave myself so open lined art wise. But now coming to Pillar and Pride and working with Doug Garbark, who's the colorist and outstanding, like I just kind of send him like what I'm going for. Same thing I did with like Chris Sotomayor on other books. Like, here's what I'm going for. And if because I, as an open line kind of guy, I can get killed or saved by a colorist. Yeah. So like this book is much lighter in a lot of the times. Like, even though these guys went through a horrible thing as kids, and Anna, this other character we have in there, went through these horrible things, it's floated over their heads, but it hasn't dragged down their life. Like Eli, it's like everybody really, how you decide to take your life. You could be super upset about the things that happen to you, or you can still kind of be upbeat. And I took these two characters as still being somewhat upbeat and somewhat, you know, happy, not happy with life, but not like being dragged down by their past. So for me to like make things dark and dark and dark, I don't think would have done service to the story, and wouldn't have definitely played to that Edgar Wright, Stephen King thing we're trying to go for. So for me, the approach on this was just like really sell the acting. So like these two are friends that have known each other so long. The slight subtleties of an eyebrow or a look either sells or doesn't sell the dialogue that John's trying to get across. So for me, I kind of just tried to like be very expressive, very active, have fun with the acting. And then to the person who told me I shouldn't have done horror, I don't have the same animosity that everyone else does. I live in New York City, where people tell you how to eat, how to walk, how to talk, how to drive, so other people infusing their opinions in your day, you kind of just let it go over your head. Because if you let every a-hole with an opinion slow you down, you would never get past the corner.
That's right, Don. Calm down. Calm down.
I'm ready to fight for Joe. I'm like, come on.
I know. Go get your outfit, change back into the Crimson Cave.
I'll get the moustache ready, you know.
And then show up in New York, dude. Put your haggis where your mouth is.
Right in New York.
Put your haggis where your mouth is. So one thing I want to ask you, and I love the way that you have very expressive characters. And in this book, you have to draw these characters that are in their adult life and in their kid life, right? And a lot of people, they'll draw like kids. I'm not going to name names, but there are people that just basically draw the same thing with like a tinier body and a longer neck. It's in a bigger head. It's weird. You actually get across that it's the same person but younger, right? Kind of like a Tom Grummett type thing. He drew youth so well. I think you do that too. I'm curious though, after that, do you work digitally or do you work like pen on paper?
No, I'm traditional. I'm all traditional.
Nice. Okay. What about that is better to you, or not better necessarily, but why do you like that over say digital? I'm sure you've messed with digital before.
I have messed with digital before. And the problem I think with digital is, whereas I saw it as something that would speed me up, I think it'd be the opposite. I think I would meander and meander and meander, because now I can blow it up, zoom out, do this, do that. Like I'm the first person to tell you I hate every page the second I'm done with it, but I'll sell it like it's the Bible part 2, because I know that very few people in the world, not in the industry. In the industry, it's an embarrassment of riches in comics how well people could draw. But in the world, the amount of people that could draw and tell a sequential story is few. So most people are not going to notice the things that I hate about my own work. You know what I mean? Like we were just in New York Comic Con, and I was sitting talking with a bunch of artists. And like, it's funny because when you talk with other artists, they're like, oh my God, I hate the way I drew the cape in this one thing, or the foot in this other thing. And then like, you know, even your fellow artists are like, shut up, that thing looked awesome. You don't know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
So like, to me, it's just about making it as engaging, engrossing, and active as possible. Because I want people to take a mental vacation from the front cover to the back cover. So when you go into Pillar and Pride or any book with my name on it, you know you're in for a ride, you're in for a good time. And I hope I sell the emotions, and I hope I sell the connectivity, because what John's trying to do with these two characters really adds to the story. And, you know, we're 3 issues done now, and like the weight of what he does with the decisions these characters take, and, you know, with the hoops he makes them jump through, and all the things that happen in the story, I think you're going to be like gut punched by the 4th and 5th issues, where it's like you're like really genuinely feeling for them.
Man, how long is
I will
this?
say, if you want it just to suck up to Joe some more and to his ego, if you think like it's impressive how he's drawn these kids and made them look like younger versions of the same person while still being different, you should see the stuff he's doing, because like the arc of the series is essentially each issue has a kind of like thread, which is like a flashback thread. So we have like the first issue is them as little kids, second issue is them in high school, third issue is them as like, you know, young adults in their 20s. And each stage he does the same thing, but they look like the same person but different. And it's like, I almost feel like the best one is when you get to issue 3 and he's drawing them in their 20s, because most of the time, even movies do this. When someone gets like their 20s, it's just like the same person. Like, you know, you've aged or you're going to age, like, you know, and just look the same. But Joe has, but the way he draws it, it's like, you know, when you look at photos of yourself from like 2006 and you go, hang on, I actually looked really different there. I didn't realize I looked different. My hair was more, I had more hair, I was a bit thinner, like, you know, like, and that, like, you know, is how he draws like these characters. It's so subtle, but it's so well done. I think you're really be
Oh yeah. How long is this? Is it a 5-6 issue series? Something
5
like
issues.
5 issues. What's it like working with Aftershock?
Yeah, like, you know, like, it was been one of the things. So I was like, we were talking like with Aftershock for a long time before we did this book. Like, you know, but Mike Martz at the time was like the editor, and like we've been in conversation for probably the better part of a year. Like, you know, like saying, like, you know, he was saying, oh, I want to work with you on something, so send his ideas. So I'd be sending him things and they'd be like, this is cool, but I don't think it would work because we're doing like this book, you know, or he'd say this doesn't quite work for us, keep on sending his stuff. So we had that really good, you know, relationship even before we found the right project to work on. And then, like, you know, since we started actively working on this, like, you know, it's been like large. The good thing is, like, you know, they had the team, like, you know, Mike Martz, Ryan Carroll, Ted Leo, Christina Harrington, like, you know, and Brian Cunningham's on board now. So like you had good editorial voices who were able to say, why don't you try this? Like, this could work. But for the most part, it felt quite good that we were being trusted. It was kind of like hands off, like, you know, they let us to kind of develop the story at our own pace, and like, you know, and trust, you know, and one of the good things was like, if Joe had anything that he was unsure about, and he would say, like, you know, what do you guys think about? Should we do this? Should we do that? Like, the editors would say, like, yo, what do you think, John? Like, you know, and it felt like, you know, it was a really collaborative atmosphere, which made it quite good.
Yeah, at a certain point, they just said to us, what does John think? And then it just kind of became like, you know, they already signed off on all the scripts. And I think, you know, especially an issue or two in, they trusted us to like kind of deliver the goods, hopefully. And then the rest has been, yeah, pretty easy going. Not much oversight where they're like, you know, trying to tell us to do things. Like I did throw in some Aftershock Easter eggs for people. If you're an Aftershock comics fan, there are some Easter eggs in the books. Just like little nods to other series, just to have a little fun in the universe. But beyond that, they've been like pretty much.
Yeah. I mean, obviously they've objected. They came back with some notes and they were like, "Why is everybody naked in this issue, Joe? That wasn't in the script."
Yeah.
You know, but
I don't like drawing clothes.
Issue 4 is the Attack of the Haggis, and it's just everyone running around with full dong. That's it.
We need more dong comics. That's what I say.
Yeah,
like the power of Power and Pride.
Well, I really do. I really want to start a hashtag for the book called #NervousShitters, because Ben Pillar in the book, that's like a running gag where like all of a sudden they go into these dangers and you just like there's a sound effect and he's doubled over. And Eli's like poking him and he's like, dude, you really got to get that checked. I'm telling you, it's all in your mind, dude. It's not your body. And he's leaning up against a tree in one issue where he's about to trap himself. And Eli's like taking photos of him, like laughing at him, like, you know, like the way real friends act.
Doesn't even tell his wife in the first issue, you know, I'm a nervous shitter or something like that.
Yeah, that's page 2. He's like, you know, I'm a nervous shitter, like, you know. I think that's something like, you know, me and Joe probably both relate to. Like, I have this thing, like, you know, maybe not like to any extreme level, like you know, but like for me, one of the things I always have is it doesn't matter if I'm running late, whether it's like, you know, to catch a train or I've got a meeting or something like this, inevitably the second I'm heading out the door, I'm like, you need a shit, John. You know, like, so like I was trying to kind of like tap into that. But also like, you know, like Joe was talking about, like, you know, there's like some great banter they had, like, you know, with like Eli kind of like, you know, making fun of him over it. I always like to give characters like a little tick, like, you know, and something to kind of like, so for in Ben's case, it's like shitting. And also, I just wanted an excuse to have Eli say the word sphincter. I think, like, you know, like, I just imagine Joe saying sphincter, you know, like.
I do like. I got to get better at a Scottish accent because John does a good Joe Mulvey. He does.
Joe Mulvey, how you doing? Not gonna lie to you. Not gonna lie to you. Fantastic.
So good. It's so good.
For John, you just got to first you start with Uncle Scrooge and you work your way from that. Is what
the best thing ever is how I met John like years ago. We were at New York Comic Con. He would try selling his book to people, and I am telling you, 99% of the people that he sold books to, he would put out his hand to shake it. It was before COVID, so you could do that. He would put out his hand to shake it, and then he'd be like, "How you doing?" And every person would say, "What?" And then he would just pull them in with the hand to the table and be like, and then here's my book, buy my book, buy my book. He sold a book to a Batman in full body latex. I don't even know where the man was hiding money.
No, he had his utility belt. He unbuckled one of the things utility belt and pulled out a roll of bills.
Tremendous. Tremendous.
Nice. Brian, what you got, bro? You've been up there in the corner chilling patiently.
Yeah. I do want to. I'm glad the first panel has come up a couple times because I don't think I've ever laughed as hard as I have at a first panel in a comic. I mean, I just, you know, he's sitting there with his hand like this and getting yelled at. It's like, you know,
through the door. I've had like one or two like retailers reach out to me, and one like we had sent the preview off to I think it's, what is it, Pulp 716. It's a great retailer in upstate New York. Like, they're tremendous. Mm-hmm. And the buyer wrote back to me, and they were just like, I think that's the strongest opening panel since Saga of #1. And I was like, wow, what a nice pat on the back. I was like, all right, I'll take it.
Yeah. I could see that. Well, yeah, Joe, I was wondering, like, your style is kind of different than a lot of the stuff out there, and so I was wondering, can you speak to some of your influences on how you got to where you are?
I'm a 90s kid, so Todd McFarlane is like the GOAT for me. He's like the like, you know, he's three of the heads on Mount Rushmore, like between his, you know, his willingness to go out there and sell the books he does, and being you know, an amazing artist, and like all that stuff, and a businessman. So like, McFarlane's like probably #1 in my book. I also love like you know, Joe Quesada, Humberto Ramos is huge, Art Adams. Might not show a lot, but like Frank Quietly. And then I think, like, personally, a buddy of mine, a fellow artist, Joe Eisma, who has drawn like for every company and whatever. Like, years ago, he got me into reading manga. And ever since I started reading manga, it's just changed my storytelling, changed like everything for me. But those are like, I mean, I could give you a litany list of like Steve McNiven, you know, Nick Dragata, Riley Rossmo. You know, like there's just so many people that I'm big fans of, like Scotty Young. Like there's just a long list. But yeah, and I do take pride that originally on Wailing Blade, the pull quote on the front was going to be a review we had gotten of Wailing Blade #1, where it was, "I wish." Am I allowed to curse on here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
I wish Comic Tribe would have spent the money and let Humberto Ramos draw this book with his fucking foot. Or something like that. And that's what the book looked like. And I said to Tyler, the editor of Comic Tribe, I'm like, can we get that as the pull quote on the top, on front of the book? And he's like, no, we can't. He goes, most people would be insulted. I was like, what do I care? You bought the book already. Like,
that's hilarious, man.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah, I could see a lot of those influences, and yeah, I could definitely see, you know, some Frank Quietly in there. Actually, yeah, it's great stuff. So, and John, I know, like, first time we had you on, you brought up Naoki Urasawa.
Do you know, like, I was literally going to just say that when he mentioned manga. You know, like, I was thinking that as well.
Yeah, because that one, I'd heard of 20th Century Boys a couple times before, and I'd always been interested. But when we had that interview with you, that was what I actually went and grabbed all the books and everything like that. And
so what did you think? Did you read it all?
Oh yeah, I loved it. I loved it. Yeah, I was able to read like it's hard to put Urasawa books down. I mean, I think I read the last 3 or 4 books in the same day because I had to know. You know, I mean, it was like, but And I saw an interview where you mentioned that one as an influence of this, and I can definitely see that in there.
Oh yeah, no, I'm not sure. Like when I was doing a wee pitch document, I sent to Aftershock. I actually had to be like short list of like things that I was drawing inspiration from, and one of the top things in the list was 20th Century Boys. Is that whole vibe of like, you know, formative experiences, kids bleeding into like, you know, the events in the present day, and the kind of like dual prong narrative, you know, that seems like two stories, but it's actually one story. Like, you know, that is definitely something I was thinking of. And I think that when I actually think about it, Last Ride of Pillar and Pride is probably like, you know, the first pitch that like had developed, or at least the first pitch that's been to publishing stage that was developed after like Naoku Asara like took over my life in the summer of 2020, like, you know, and I can probably see like, you know, probably both conscious and subconscious, I can definitely see elements of his work kind of like bleeding into like, you know, what I was doing with the book.
Yeah.
Also, speaking of Urasawa, I've got a new recommendation for you. You should check out Pluto's back in print apparently, and all 8 volumes are now available, so you can pick that up. One of the best books ever.
Yeah, I got that at the shop, Brian, just so you know. Pluto.
Okay, well, I do have I did get those right after 20th Century Boys. I jumped into that one and was able to get them. They weren't all in print, so it wasn't that easy.
Oh yeah, no, I had to go the hard way to get mine.
But that one is, man, that one, like I read most of that in one day, and it's fabulous there. And I do have some of the Master Keaton ones. So
yeah. Oh yeah, that's a great book, because Master Keaton is great, but for me, like 20th Century Boys, Monster, and Pluto, like are all in like my top 10 comics ever made, you know, which totally screwed up my top 100 comics list I was working on at the time, you know, but all masterpieces. So Joe, if you've not read them, you should check them all out. I think you'd
no, I've read 20th Century Boys, and I'm only up to like volume, what is it? How many volumes of Pluto? There's 7?
8.
8. So I'm only up to 7, because what I was doing was like every time I did Wailing Blade, when I finished an issue as a little something for myself, I would order another trade. And then all of a sudden they're like, oh no, like at the end, like I guess 8 was out of stock or was out of print when I went
just back in now. So you
yeah. So now I can finally see how it ends. That's
I still haven't read any Urasawa, but ever since that conversation, I started stalking it in our manga section at work, and his stuff sells like crazy. Monster, 20th Century Boys. Is there one called Memories or something like that?
I don't know about that.
It's not
Memories. If there is, I've not read it.
There's something else. Yeah, that's the one I'm thinking of.
And then and then Sneeze, I think there's a short story collection too. So
because as far as manga goes for me, I like Otomo, I like Ito, and I haven't really read much else. So Joe, what are some of your recommendations of some manga to get into?
Oh, dude, you got to start. The thing that got me hooked was Joe Eisman, again, I'm going to say his name, and Charles Paul Wilson, another talented artist. Like, I forget which one of them it was, but they sent me Akira Volume 1. And I was like, nah, I'm not really into it. I think I got like 5 pages in, and I was like, holy shit.
Right?
This is, and I'm just like poring over the artwork. You could have put no words in that book for me, and I would have been like, and I'm like black and white, yawn. And then now I could go back and smack myself, because I feel like the energy that infused into my work, like, changed everything for me. Like, I could put speed lines on a guy going to the bathroom. Like, I love.
You've still got 2 issues. You may have a chance to.
yeah. The speed shitting scene is amazing. But I'm telling you, man. Like, I completed 20th Century Boys. I'm not near my bookshelf, but I would tell you I have a whole bunch. Oh my god. I like Death Note. I know people crap on it, but I like Death Note. Also, 20th Century Boys, Pluto, Akira. I mean, those are like the tentpoles. So I'm not giving you anything super well vetted here. Like, everyone knows these books.
Well, I know what it's like when you get put on the spot and you're like, wait a second.
Yeah, my least favorite question, like anyone to ask me, is like, you know, what books are you reading right now? Because I read a lot of comics, but the second someone asks me that, like, I totally go blank, and I'm like, Batman, you know, and it's like, I can't think of anything.
That's
else.
good. That was a good shot, John.
Yeah.
I don't mind being put on the spot, but I'm just saying, like the last book I read was That Texas Blood, right? That's that's the last book I read. So like now I'm like, okay, now I got to go back, and when was it? Because like I don't as much read manga as I look through it now for a little bit of inspiration, a little bit of like, you know, just flip through it and like look at different line weights and different, I don't know, like, you know, just artistic stuff to blatantly steal or get inspiration from.
Well, Todd McFarlane stole a lot from Otomo, right? Like including actual backgrounds sometimes.
Yeah, yeah, right. Actual backgrounds like that. I was like, how did you get away with that one? But okay.
Like nobody noticed, I guess. Like it was just so crazy. Hell yeah, man. This has been a great conversation so far. So where are we going from this point forward? Are you, Joe, a horror fan like John is? John loves horror. So do
not to John's extent, but I do enjoy horror, even though I'm going to say something that might be sacrilegious. I'm not. Has anyone checked out this new? And I should say this too. I have 2 little kids. I work. I have like my, I coach sports. I do a lot of stuff. So I don't get to see as much horror stuff. I've heard nothing but crazy great things about Barbarian. And I don't know if that's exactly horror, but like.
Oh, yeah.
Okay. But I have been able to catch 2 full episodes of The Creatures in the Cabinets or whatever that new.
The Cabinet of Curiosities, which I've not watched yet. So
I haven't either. The Del Toro series, man.
All right. Then I'm not going to say anything. If no one's seen anything.
But you like it, is what you're saying. You recommend it?
I would say that it is a show that is on a streaming service and should be taken as such.
Of all the shows that I watched this year, this was certainly one of them.
That's it. Yeah.
Barbarian is good. I would highly recommend that.
Barbarian, and for me, nothing going into Barbarian. It's the best way to experience this movie. What I've been saying is, what Barbarian is like the movie equivalent of, you get those viral Twitter threads where someone's like, hey, this just happened to me, and it becomes this kind of like live tweet thing of like, wait to see what happens next. It has the cadence of that, where it starts off in one place, like, two folk are double booked for an Airbnb, and then it just like, you have no idea where it's going to go from there. Like, it just gets increasingly like, what the hell is going on here? So yeah, definitely worth checking out.
Yeah, I loved it. I thought it was.
See it with a crowd if you can, because it's one of those ultimate movies for people like letting out gasps and laughs and someone going, "What are you doing?" No, So.
Well, back to Robbie's question. I do like horror, but I do prefer my horror with a nice heavy. Like I do like Edgar Wright. I do like it with a nice dose of comedy. Like, what was Edgar Wright's last movie? The one like Last Night in Soho?
I've not seen that yet.
It's a genuinely, I think it's a beautiful film. Like, it's a great film, but it takes away that little bit of humor that I think he's known for in his stuff. Mm-hmm. And that's fine. Like, this is I think he even said it in a few interviews. Like, this is his Shining, or his, like, he was trying to make it like his full on, like, horror or like just suspense story, and it works on every level like that. But I just like it where he infuses some jokes into it.
I need to check that one out, because I heard that it's kind of like his giallo kind of.
Correct. Yeah, I think that's what he was saying more. Yep. The film is gorgeous, well acted. Like it's great. It just shows like how tremendous of a director he is, his visual sense and all that stuff. But if you told me right now I can get another movie with him and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost and whatever, I'd be like, yeah, let's make it happen. Like, I want that very badly.
I tell you what, when I first watched Hot Fuzz, I did not appreciate it as much as I should have until I rewatched Point Break, and then I loved Hot Fuzz even more.
Like, what is Hot Fuzz is one of those movies that on repeat viewing just gets better and better. For me, it's like a rare example of like a perfect script. Like, there's few perfect, like Groundhog Day, maybe a couple other ones, but like Hot Fuzz, because there's nothing in that movie. Every single setup has a payoff later on. There's so many double meanings laced into everything that's said. Like, once you know what the story is and you go back and watch it and you see how much everything is setting up for something else later on, it's just like masterful.
And the beauty of that movie is the story of it is friendship, right? He can't be happy with the woman he's with, so he goes off and like gets this new job. And he only really starts to enjoy and start living his life when he meets a friend that he can share it with, right? Like, and that, full circle back to Pillar and Pride, that's the whole point of it. Like, friendship, the trials and tribulations of friendships, the crazy, funny, insane things that can happen with friendships. Like, I'm sure we all have old friends. John and I, even for 10 and 11 years, we have so many stories we could tell you where we couldn't breathe because we were laughing so hard at the ridiculous nature of stuff. Like, I still have a thing in my head of one night coming back. I won't get too far into the con story, but one night coming back in Seattle, and I might have had a few.
I just in Seattle, and we're gonna go.
A few adult beverages, and after having a few adult beverages, just trying to urinate somewhere, but there were cops all over, and I couldn't do it. So I get back to the hotel room, and it was gonna happen. And as I'm like the scene that happened, and I'm not even gonna ruin it because I don't want to be too crass. But when I tell you, the people that were involved in that room are bonded for life by a story of what happened. Like yeah, like you can't just help but you hear someone be like, "Is he pissing in a garbage can?" And you hear people scream these things. And these are the lives we all have stories like this with friends, right? Of like, horrible jokes you made at a funeral that made people like it's all just part of like
the best thing about like that Seattle trip. I remember that first time in Seattle. There was four of us in the room, and there was like two of us who were very like pristine and tidy and like clean and meticulous, and like and there was two, like Joe and one other person who'd wake up every morning, they'd have like farting contests, like
yeah, we're class.
And the best thing was Joe would give this regular update, like he'd be like oh, I've got a shit cooking, and he kept an update, and he couldn't get a shit out the whole week. He's like, oh, it's coming, and me and like the other meticulous tidy, like pristine person, we'd actually go down to the lobby and take a shit because we didn't want to like be like taking a shit.
Hold on.
But eventually, so Joe was the first person to leave because he had to get a flight the night before, and then like so when he left, he went, "Oh, it's time." I'm like, "Can you not just wait to the airport now? You waiting 4 days?" No. So he does this beast that's curled up, like we couldn't push it, and he's like, "Bye, guys."
No, but hold on. Here's the best one. I go, and then I go, "Guys," I'm sorry, it's not flushing. And they go, "What do you mean?" And
we thought he was joking. We're like,
hold on, ready? It's not flushing. I'm like, it's not. I don't know what to do. So they're like, no. I'm like, you got to. I was like, let me call down, and then I faked like I was calling down. And I was like, yeah, you got to come up. It's not where I don't know what it is. I don't know. So then they're waiting, and this room is dogged. This room is not doing well. And
the thing is, it was like an Irish goodbye, like where he did the call. And he's like, right now I'm leaving, so you're gonna have to decide which one of you it was that did it, and then he left. And then you're sitting going like, when the...
But the best is supposedly like someone else called and someone came up to the room and they were like, "What's wrong with it?" And then the guy just walked over and flushed it, and it went right down like no problem. And I was like, that's even better.
Because this was so vile, none of us even wanted to go into the room to like test it.
That is so fucking funny.
Just so when this guy walks in, he's like, and we're like, "You better see if you're not going in there." And he's like,
and this is what I'm saying. When you have friends over years, you have these stories, and that's the beauty of Pillar and Pride.
Exactly. Brian's got a story with me now from Heroes Con this year, where like in the middle of the night, all of a sudden Robbie's harfing in the fucking bathroom.
Yeah.
We went to the Memphis Comic Expo, and Brian was in charge of the hotel. And it was the skeeviest fucking place I've ever been. And there were like cigarette burns on the fucking bathtubs, like people hanging out in the fucking hallways, listening to fucking music. Like it was so fucking weird. Thanks.
The smoke alarm had a
Heroes Con.
That was for Memphis.
Oh, okay.
But they, the fire alarm actually had a plastic like Kroger bag taped with electrical tape around it to cover it up for some reason.
Heroes
Con, we had a really, really nice place because Brian didn't book it. So
yeah.
But hold on,
that's how I lost that job.
People in that nice place didn't have the stories of being afraid to walk down your old hallway like you did. So Brian, I hope he thanks you for the stories you gave him.
Well, you know what I mean? Though, Heroes Con, like the Simonsons were 2 doors down from us, so I don't know if the stories were better at the skeevy place, right? Because we got to have breakfast with Chris Claremont and Walt Simonson and Wheezy and shit, right?
Well, hold on. Does Brian get credit for that?
No, that wasn't Brian.
All right. Well, we'll see. Brian, I'm trying to stick up for you here, but you're making it hard.
Brian's like, that's what you think, and he just pulls off his mask, and it is Walt Simonson.
And Robbie pulls off his, and it's Louise.
It's Surprise, motherfuckers!
I got some work to do though. It sounds like I got some work to do. So.
No, it was a cool that hotel was an experience, man. That was fun, man. It was fun. I wasn't threatened or anything during the time. It was just a nasty hotel. That's what I was. I think there's some nasty.
The good thing about like being born and raised in Glasgow is that I find it very hard to feel threatened. You know, so
yeah, right. That comes across in sync, right? So there you go. Well, shit, this is the time. Once a year, we get to ask you this, John. When's Sync coming back? You got more Sync, right?
Yeah, well, actually, like I've been getting like a steady flow of new Sync pages in my inbox from Alex. Like so like issue, volume 3 is like well underway. I know we've been talking to Tyler, the publisher, and his stance is that the printing situation is becoming increasingly chaotic in the comics industry with the paper shortage and all that. So essentially, like Tyler wants like the whole volume essentially done before we start like the release cycle, which is so it's because we're trying to bank more. It's meant a later start time, but hopefully it should mean a more consistent release schedule once it does start. Yeah, the stuff's been looking great. Like I'm really excited about this volume. Like I wrote this volume ages ago. So I'm almost like remembering the story as I see Alex drawing it. But it's like we're taking the story in new different directions. It's quite exciting. It's almost a more connected story this time. It's more ambitious. So yeah, the only reason Alex has stopped art recently because tonight he's on a plane to come to London because he's going to be coming here to the UK for his convention. Me and Alex are both going to be at Thought Bubble this coming weekend in Harrogate, so that's going to be quite fun seeing Alex in person for the first time in several years and like doing a convention together in the UK for the first time. So everyone's going to think it's him that's the one that's going to funny accent rather than me.
Yeah, right. And everybody was like, "You have to be his translator." Like, what the fuck is this guy saying? Right? Yeah. Me and Brian have been toying with the idea. We got to make it to a Thought Bubble. Right,
Bubble's
so
great.
many of our friends over there. That'd be so cool.
Yeah, it's just a fun show. It's like because essentially, obviously, I love New York Comic Con, blah blah blah, but it almost feels like there's lots of comic stuff there, but you also have like the movie stuff, the TV stuff, the blah blah blah. Thought Bubble, it's all comics, and the comics is the main event, and literally, it takes over the whole town that week, and essentially you have let's say. They have Kieran Gillen and who's the artist in Wicked and Divine? I've totally blanked on his name. Jamie McKelvey. I say Kieran Gillen and Jamie McKelvey are coming. They're the featured guests at Thought Bubble. They will be the featured guests at Thought Bubble, treated as the A-list celebrities, but also they'll have a special curated art gallery event in the town in the days leading up to it, and they'll have special things, and they're presented essentially as these big deals are coming to the town for this convention, or the same thing happened with Gerard Way and Nick Derrington, when they had Doom Patrol coming out, they were treated the same way. That was quite funny actually, because obviously that was the one year that a whole bunch of My Chemical Romance fans came to Thought Bubble to get autographs from Gerard Way. And the one time I met Gerard Way was when everyone was obviously overwhelming him at his table and stuff, and I managed to make my way over through to the main hall, and I walked up to him. I found my way in front of his table, and he was like, "Oh, hi, are you wanting something signed?" And I was like, "Oh no, I'm actually looking for Nick Derrington. Can you point me to where he is?" and he's like, "Oh, he's over there."
And then he wrote a song about it, John.
He's never like
CR album.
But I've told you a lot. Yeah, so Thought Bubble, I definitely recommend it. The whole the convention itself, super fun, super focused on comics. Every year is always the small press section is always books that go around. Everyone says you have to pick up this book, it's really good, and there's a real kind of focus on discovering stuff, and really cool under the radar books, and the books and then the whole nightlife side of it's great as well. I've had many years, I think the one time of the year that I inflict my dance moves in the world is in the Thought Bubble mid-con party. Fun story actually about that was when Fabio Moon and Gabriel Ba were guests at one of the show one year, and I'd asked Fabio Moon if we could get a commission of Einstein for the Manhattan projects, and I asked him this on the Saturday, and he was like, I don't know, it's maybe come back and find me tomorrow. I've got a lot of commissions lined up. I might not have time to get to it. And then the Saturday night mid-con party, I was on the you know, the sort of the show floor doing like my best dad dancing, like break dancing, like whatever moves, you know. And as I'm walking off the dance floor, I feel a tap on my shoulder, and Fabio Moon's like, "You're getting your Einstein commission."
Were you wearing the
No. I'm sure like the people of like Leeds at the time were grateful, but also like I remember even like as I've got older and I'm like less mobile in my dancing, like even just like the conversations you have with comics folk, like they're getting to meet up with the UK comic scene. I remember last year, me and Fraser Campbell and a handful of other folks sat up in the hotel lobby till like 2 a.m. just in hysterics, like riffing on story ideas and making us increasingly like obscene, crazy, and it was just like just such a great vibe. Like I'd recommend anybody, the UK or otherwise, to at some point make a trip out to Top Bubble. It's such a good show. And
nobody's steamboxing your hotel room, right?
No. Very nice hotels.
It hasn't happened yet.
Harry gets historic bath time with some very nice, classy hotels.
No cigarette burns on the fucking toilet seat.
No, actually, one thing is, I ask Alex about this, like once he comes back, if you have him on the show at any point. Like it's almost became this local legend, like in Harrogate, you have to see like the downstairs bathroom in the hotel, like because it's like something out of The Shining, this massive like cavernous bathroom with all these like weird mirrors and walls and stuff. So like you can't actually go into the bathroom there because at any point if you're in the bathroom, a whole bunch of like women in men may just walk in and be like wow, let's take some photos and selfies in the bathroom.
I've seen pictures of that. Pictures of that actually.
It's a sight to behold.
So.
I think we need to make a book about all horrible bathroom stories. Like that should be the next thing that we do. Like the bathroom boogeyman or toilet terror. Something that we could like.
I think, like to be honest, like talking about conventions. You've had your Memphis experience. I'm talking about the Thought Bubble. Like one idea I've had, I'd love to do for a story at some point. I think it'd be an anthology thing. Maybe is a book called Hellcath, which is like a book about the worst convention in the world. It's like the shit. Just go to the horrible convention hotel. Like the convention itself, the guests, and like I think it'd be a great kind of like way to do something with the story about that.
That would be cool, man. All right, Brian, what else you got, bro? Take it over.
Well, I know you all have a lot of experience with Kickstarters too, and I'm a big fan of backing a lot of those, and y'all just had some really successful Kickstarters. That I don't know. Did you want to make any comments about how your experiences with Kickstarter?
I have that very easy experience of Kickstarter, which is essentially like I write the thing and I do some promo for it, and I let like Comics Tribe do all the work, So
I was just gonna say that's the best thing is reach out to.
Oh, we've lost Joe.
Going with Kickstarters.
Oh, he's back. We lost
sorry.
Joe.
Yeah. And like if you reach out, Tyler has a podcast called Comics Launch, which helps everybody out there. He does have a paid like educational like component to it, but he has a podcast that's out there that just does every single corner of Kickstarter. So if you're, if you've had one and it's failed, if you've had one that's been successful, how to build on it, how to do all that kind of stuff. Like, I mean, I call him like the Kickstarter guru. Like that's the bottom line. Like, so I'd like to say, oh, thanks. But the bottom line is we've all run our Kickstarters through Tyler and Comics Tribe, and he's a machine with that.
Yeah, like, as good as he is as a comics publisher, like that's almost like the third thing in the rung, like, because if we'd actually look at his real, it's like he's like genuine, like you say, he's a guru, he's a master of like Kickstarter and crowdfunding strategy, like, and he has this whole like tutorial course he runs on it, like, so like, I almost feel like you're always in safe hands with Tyler because like he's going to like, get you over the line every time because he's a genius in that regard.
Brian, this might be a little odd, but can I ask you a question?
Of course.
All right. Well, Robbie really seemed to jump down your throat there. He's not here right now. Do you have something you want to say about him? Like, really, you want to just like, give him a couple kidney punches while he's not here?
Yeah, but we won't tell anybody. Like, just
buddy. This is the tree of trust right there. You don't have to worry about it.
Yeah. No. Just you, me, Joe, and millions of subscribers.
That's it. I saw someone in the chat from Portugal. All right, so one person in Portugal.
Yeah, I'm not. Everyone that's listening out here, I know that none of you are snitches. So
no, guys, we're all every man, woman, and child listening to this. We're all cool here. This is amongst friends.
No, like y'all's relationship. That's kind of the way Robbie's are. We're always giving each other crap. You know, I mean, I go into the store and I just expect it. You know, he's the manager.
Oh, he was shit talking you so much, Robbie.
I too hope the New York Yankees make trades in the offseason to do better next year, Brian. Robbie's back. Let's get him involved.
You know that's fake if I'm talking about baseball, right?
Oh, you were talking about baseball when you thought your Mariners were going to knock off the fucking Astros, but whatever.
Well,
I can't stand the Houston one. I'm not going to try to turn this into baseball talk. But
wait, so you're a Mets fan, Joe? Right?
I'm a Yankees fan.
Okay, I'm a Yankees fan. Okay, good. Okay, we good then, right?
Okay, yeah, I'm Yankees, Rangers, Jets, and Knicks. Those are my teams.
Hey man, the Jets this year. What the hell?
We're playing right now against the Buffalo Bills.
Oh man, damn. I even feel worse now, man.
It was 14-3 when I walked away. So now if somehow they've rallied back, I can't watch the game because I'm the jinx. That's how demented my sports life.
Yeah. I've been there wearing the wrong shirt, and
it's so crazy because I've gotten my kids into it, which is even worse. Like when the Yankees were going up against Cleveland, my youngest daughter is like a huge Aaron Judge fan. No shock there. So we're watching the games, and then the nights we didn't watch, they lost, and the nights we watched, they won. So then, because of school and obligations, we couldn't see a whole bunch of the series against the Astros, and the Yankees got swept. And my daughter's like, "Of course, because we didn't watch. That's our fault. It's on us." I'm like, "No."
At least I know who to blame now, Joe. Thank you for that.
I'm passing it down to the next generation.
Next time the lose, like Mulvey.
Yes, exactly. I think we're good, man. I think Aaron Judge is about to become the highest paid baseball player. I mean, it has to happen, I think.
And listen, God bless him. He bet on himself. He deserves it. But as a fan, I don't think there's a better ambassador for the sport than Aaron Judge.
I agree.
He's modest. He was going for an all-time record this year, and every time he was asked, he diverted it to making it about his team and about what they were collectively trying to do. And as a fan of growing up with a Jeter and all that stuff, he was everything you'd want. He was something that was to be really idolized as a role model for kids coming up and for players. Yeah. And I give him all the respect in the world, but I'm sorry, man, I can't give you $400 million because guess what? Like, I need to actually have a team around you. And that's not going to happen with $400 million. Plus you're 6'7". Guys like that don't hold up. Like he could be the unicorn of the league. Don't get me wrong that he could play for the next 8 years real healthy, but it's not normal with a guy his size.
Mm-hmm. I wish we could have got the deal done last year, obviously, right?
Yeah, I agree. But you know what?
I think he's worth it. And I think that he needs to come in. They need to pay him something around that. And I think they need to make him captain. And then, like you said, like, you got to have a team around. Like, the problem with the Yankees is it's always about swinging the fences, right? Like, and it's like you got to have some like small ball mentality in there, and you got to have pitching. And our pitching wasn't our problem this year. It was when the offense kind of shrunk up in that Astros series. But now we're talking.
And I'm sure I can see John falling asleep while I say this. But
no, stop watching the message.
2 more minutes on baseball for a second. Do you know why there will never be an Aaron Boone action figure?
Why is that?
Because they'd spend too much having Cashman's head working him up the ass like a puppet. He was not a legit manager. Aaron Boone sits there just going, yeah. In your life, have you ever seen someone that's never been a manager before get the New York Yankees? That's like saying to your 13-year-old who's not old enough to drive yet, hey, by the way, babe, here's a Lamborghini I got you. Does not happen. And number two, the New York Yankees, I couldn't agree more. They need small ball. But when you still make money on all your merchandise, all your TV rights, or this year they tried to even show the TV networks, we don't even care about you because we're going to go to Apple. We're going to go to a streaming service and get that money. They don't have any real incentivization to win and to make that next step because it's going to mean less home runs, less whatever. Like, dude, it's embarrassing this year. We didn't steal bases. It's embarrassing. And we were fine with it. But okay, we're not going to take the entire time up because this is the same problem that Eli PRYDE and Ben Filler have, where they have differences of opinion, different interests, and it
No, I have no problem at all. I've been very into educational because at this time whenever I saw people mention Aaron Judge, I thought it was the guy who wrote King of the Hill. So
yeah, that's it. It's his younger brother. That's my brother. Yeah,
exactly. He is a great. All the scene, like you see video after video of him, like always playing catch with some kid in the outfield, right before a game or something like that. He is a solid player. But Aaron Judge. What's crazy is, I mean, not Aaron Judge, but Aaron Boone. When he got the gig, I was like, is it because he hit that home run against the Red Sox in 2003 or whatever? Like that's it, right? That's it. That's why he's got the job.
It's because supposedly he's real good with players. Like that's I don't know what that means. Like it is what it is. I listen.
Then
go ahead, Brian. I'm sorry.
I was gonna say, but then you need a staff that can handle all the other stuff. I mean, that's usually what I see happens when you have these people that are inexperienced, and I mean, because he's effectively kind of running a multi-million-dollar business. And if you haven't done, you know what I mean? I mean, if you haven't done that, that's not something you jump into, man.
He makes some boneheaded calls when it comes to like pulling pitchers out and shit at certain times, and I don't know, man. He makes some, but I don't get like, I don't think he's as, I don't know, man. In my life, I was blessed with Joe Torre. So like, that's it for me.
Dude, I'll be honest with you. I like Joe Girardi a lot. I know that he was a hard ass on people, but like, no offense. If you're a pro and you're not running out, you're not trying to beat out a single. You should get yelled at. That's the way you're taught at like every little level. Like, your actions have consequences and you are responsible for stuff.
Coming soon on Pop Culture Philosophers, Joe Mulvey and Rockin Robbie present the Yankees talk.
What's wrong with the Yankees?
Listen. There's a lot of sports fans in comics.
Yes,
there is. There's a lot of sports fans. Ryan Brown, a good buddy of mine, who's making a new book, 8 Billion Genies, which is a great book. Ryan's a huge sports fan. Text him on Sundays. Text him during the week. He was texting me during the because he was more than happy to watch the Yankees lose, but he's a Cubs fan. Like, stop. But
it could be worse.
That is true. And listen, there is no worse person than a Red Sox Patriots fan. There's none. There's no worse person.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm with you on that.
It's the ISIS of sports. That's what it is. It's just all garbage. They're all garbage. That's it.
All right. Well, John, you're actually a sports fan. You love sports entertainment. Any thoughts on
and the best type of sports are the ones where it's you know the results ahead of time and it's fake.
Yeah.
Well, the great thing about wrestling is that you can engineer a happy ending, to send the fans home happy rather than perpetual despair.
I was
watching your home team lose.
Unless you're writing Crimson Cage.
Yeah.
But then you got mixed up. Any thoughts on the status right now? The where wrestling is right now? Because I hear a lot.
To be honest, I'll keep it brief, but like my interest is kind of on the wane a wee bit right now. I think like I'm feeling a bit like I think all of the companies to various degrees are kind of like a bit of a low ebb creatively. And I'm kind of watching for my people that I like, but they're not being utilized in the way that I would most like them to be utilized right now. So I'm hoping things will turn around. We'll see.
Okay. Well, damn, man. Even John's like basically saying the same thing I'm hearing from all my wrestling fan homies. It's like, it sucks right now, man. Like, there's just nothing there.
A lot of it was like out of people's control. Like, a whole bunch of like unfortunately timed injuries from all of the hottest talent and stuff. And then a lot of it was like, just not being able to utilize the people that they did have. And yeah, it's kind of like a bit of a bummer right now. But
I feel like AEW literally is like improv wrestling, where they're going to make up storylines and matches every single week. Like, there's no continuity for the most part to most of the stuff they do.
Yeah, no, I'm feeling a bit down about it right now. So
Joe, you watch wrestling too?
Not as much as I used to. Like, I kind of I'll follow up on clips and all that other stuff, but like, I don't know. Like, I haven't watched that much. Like, I think the last thing I caught like bits and pieces of was last WrestleMania, but then I'll follow up and like, I'll pop on like a Dynamite or a Rampage or a Raw for a minute or two, or see the highlights from it the next day.
I will say that one of the great wrestling experiences I had was going with Joe to see Kaiju Big Battle in Queens, which was this indie wrestling show where they had the wrestlers dressed up as like monsters, and they put these little mini cardboard buildings in like the ring, and it was like big, like like Kaiju style wrestling thing.
It was like a guy dressed as a silver dumpling fighting against a guy as a potato, tag teaming against a dinosaur, and like a person dressed as a building. And at one point, I look over at John, I go, "What the fuck did you bring me to?" Like, I'm expecting at one point someone to whip out Dong, and it was just going to go full orgy, because I said, "Where? What? Where have you brought me to?" But I got to tell you, I did not know it, but I guess it was all like WrestleMania weekend or the week of. Dude, it was so much fun. It was silly. It was crazy. It was hysterical. It was really, really a lot of fun.
Hell yeah. Now it's time for John's favorite portion of the segment. What are you reading lately? What's been sparking your interest, John?
Sync.
Batman, no. But Detective Comics. I've been reading the Powerbomb, obviously, to keep the wrestling theme going. That's been like a lot of fun. I've actually really been impressed with Scott Snyder's like post DC output. I've been reading both Night of the Ghoul and Dark Spaces Wildfire. Both of those books are excellent, really good, and it's quite fun because then for a while we kind of took Scott Snyder for granted a wee bit, or he was maybe he was content doing like the big DC events like Metal and stuff, and now he's kind of came back with a kind of almost like a chip to show, like, no, I'm the shit, I'm good, I can do this really well. And like Night of the Ghoul is genuinely like, really creepy and unsettling, and Francesco Francavilla is doing super atmospheric work on it. That book's like a nightmare. Then Dark Spaces Wildfire is totally different. It's like watching like a kind of gripping heist movie, but in comic form. And like it's like Joe was talking about with Power and Pride, but every issue undercuts and it becomes something different, and it's just so well done. The characterizations on point. Hayden Sherman's layouts are amazing.
Hayden is amazing.
Yes, he's such a good artist. Really impressive. Really impressive. Like better than I've seen. So those books are great, and still enjoying stuff like Department of Truth. That's still great. I've got like issue 10 of The Nice House in the Lake sitting unread. Is that the last issue?
12.
Is it 12? Okay, I've got a couple more still to go.
So it's 12 and then it's done.
Yeah, aye. So I've been enjoying that a lot, so a whole bunch of stuff that I've been enjoying. I've also been enjoying Public Domain. I think that's a really underrated, under the radar book.
What's crazy about that book is Chip is working for DC and Marvel right now while making this book.
Yeah, he's working for DC and Marvel while also writing and drawing this book for Image, which is coming out on a pretty much monthly schedule. It's fucking great, and nobody's talking about it.
And he's kind of using that book to kind of be like, DC and Marvel kind of shit sometimes to create.
But it's just so well done. And Joe mentioned it earlier, that Texas Blood, just like I've almost ran out of good things to say about Texas Blood because every issue is just peerless. The craft in that book is just at a whole other level. I just read it and go, Chris Condon and Jacob Phillips are just giving a masterclass on how to make you care about characters and build emotion, but also in terms of tension and kind of putting you on the edge of your seat and making you really uneasy. It's just such a great book.
Yeah, I think I dropped out of that too soon because I keep hearing more and more about that.
If you only read the first arc is good, it's fun, but the first arc very much feels like in a criminal vein, like it's something you've seen before, but done well. By the second volume, it really starts to find its own voice, and this third volume is just to really hit the ground running, and it's just consistently one of the best things on the shelf. Just so good.
Yeah, I gotta dive into that, man. Because I liked the first arc. I thought it was very Coen Brothers-esque, right?
Mm-hmm.
But
that's a good call.
The first couple of the second, but then I just kind of dropped out. I mean, I read a lot every week, right?
Yeah.
So it's hard to.
I'd give it another shot. I think it's really impressive.
Yeah, I need to check it out then. Joe, what have you been reading? What you been liking?
Let's see. Okay, so that Texas Blood is done. I've been enjoying Vanish, the new series from Stegman and Cates.
That's a very much a 90s Image book, isn't it, man?
Yeah.
I love it.
Yep. It's got, Ryan's got a lot of McFarlane in his work. He's a huge fan of McFarlane as well. I've been reading that. I've been reading Deadliest Bouquet. I'm catching up on from Image by Erica Schultz. I've been reading Old Dog by Declan Shalvey. Is like
that second issue was amazing for
dude. The first issue was amazing. Yeah, that's a special book coming out now. I'm loving Ed Brisson's Predator. Sorry. I've been having like a lot of fun with that. I feel like I want to see Ed Brisson write or direct a Predator movie. I feel like I feel like it's a hard, maybe not that hard because I know there's a lot of similarities through all the Predator stuff, but like I think Ed's just nailing it in that book, like with that stuff. I genuinely love Jed McKay and his run on Moon Knight.
Yep,
having a lot of fun.
I'm really
and then Josh Williamson's Hell Ride, his new creator-owned book. I adore as well. I mean, there's a lot.
You mentioned Hell Ride. That's really cool because we had Josh on the channel and he was talking about his love for Disneyland and all that shit. And you did Happy Hill, which you had a big part to do because you weren't just the illustrator. You were like a co-writer and all that stuff. Like, why do you hate Disneyland so much? Like, what's going on?
No, I love Disneyland. Well, Disney World. I've never been to actual Disneyland. That's how much I love it. That I know the difference between world and land. But
Florida and California, right?
Land is California, world is Florida. Yeah. But yeah, I'm a big Disney guy. My thing is like I have a thing like a Walt Disney inspirational quote on my office wall that says like dare to dream or whatever it is. And I'm like, if you really stand back and think about it, like the amount of stuff that came from his mind, and then what came of the company and the stories it's told and stuff. Like I'm a fan of what Disney does. But yeah, man, like that Dark Ride book is super.
I want to go to that theme park. Like, right? Like, I want to go there. I want to do all of that. Like, that sounds like the perfect theme park for a horror fan is Hell Ride, right? Like, that's a really cool book. I really like. I can't wait to see more of it, right? Because we've only had one issue so far. So,
well, I'm a huge Josh Williamson fan. Like, and I will say, in a quick plug, I was a gigantic fan of Nailbiter, which was And if you subscribe to Josh's, I think it's his Substack or his newsletter, he's doing new Nailbiter stories as we speak that'll later be collected. And if you go right now, the first chapter is available by Joshua Williamson and drawn by a little no-name talent by the name of Joe Mulvey.
Oh.
So you should definitely go check that out. It's very, very
I did not know that.
Yes.
This is like the nice subtle flex there, Joe.
Yeah. I was like, why is he riding Josh's cock so much right now?
No. Josh Williamson, he lost a bet and he had to hire me. So that's
Very nice, very nice.
Well, actually, the condition was Josh had Joe draw the book, but condition was they had to have big advertising pillars for Josh's what they carried around with them, which faced the opposite way. The front end's black, so
yeah. So when I turn, it just goes like this. It makes it so hard when I walk down the street.
So is the Happy Hill collection out yet, or is it coming on is it on the horizon? What's going on?
No, yeah, it's the same thing with printing issues, and like if you put up a comic strip book with any other book, they all look so. It's outstanding. The paper quality, the cover stock, all that stuff. So the fifth issue is still yet to come out, and then we'll probably collect in the beginning of the year next year, in a Kickstarter first, and then we'll go into the direct market.
Nice. And you're right about that. The Wailing Blade paper quality and everything was amazing. So some good work there. And I love that. Is John frozen? Is he doing the bit on us? Look at him.
No.
I thought you were
that would have been great if he was.
He just sending a message. He's so tuned out right now. It's great, man. I love it.
I've actually got a call that I'm pushing back, and I'm saying I'll be in a minute.
Oh shit! Well, we're wrapping this up right now, but so do we got a release date yet? Because it's been pushed back. We've been talking about the printer delays. We got a release date yet?
Yeah, for what we got, we were supposed to be coming out this Wednesday, 9th of November, and then we found out that there's been a printer issue. We've been told that there's no update yet on when it's going to be out exactly, but We're hoping like it won't be too long, but we haven't had the specific date yet.
Which
we want to know as well. We've been asking Aftershock, but like you know, we're waiting to find out. So hopefully we'll have an answer soon. As soon as we know, we'll let people know. But as I say, we're hoping it'll be soon.
Nice. I'm excited. Everybody needs to check this first issue out. It is dope. Brian, any final thoughts, man? Any questions?
Well, Joe, I got one more question for you. I was able to get a hold of your Mummy's Always Right kids book.
Oh my God. Okay. Yeah.
And my 4-year-old has liked it, but I had to keep it away from her because she likes to chew on books a lot. So I I'll bring it out for her, but then I got to take it away. But she does love it a lot. She'll just sit there and just.
You got to buy a second copy then, man. It's only $15 on Amazon, man. Come on, man. Come on.
Yeah. But do you have any plans for any more, maybe, or?
Yeah, I made it for my 2 daughters, and they're getting older now, but they're like still 10 and 8, and they're like, "When's the next one coming out? When's the next one coming out?" So I think I've got to like squirrel away time in December and January. I have the story written. There's a character in it called Frankenmine, where it's a.
Oh, we lost him.
Mine.
He's back.
So what I'm going to end up doing is probably Frankenmine Learns to Share will be the second book in that series, but also now my youngest and I'm going to work on a book with her cool. That she has what I like to call a genius idea. And I'm like, oh, we need to make this into reality. And it's about, I'm going to give you the premise. I won't say the name, but the premise is everyone makes accidents in their pants. So wouldn't it be amazing if there was someone who you could call upon to help you when you have an accident? Like, if you're lactose intolerant or you are a nervous shitter, or if you
disappointed you never asked me to work on this project.
Oh yeah. And the name is amazing. And I was like, oh my God. I was like, this is going to be like, instead of the tooth fairy, it's like the poop fairy, but it's going to be something that we work on. So I appreciate you saying that. I generally find that most people who've read that book, like it really connected with them and their kids, and they really had fun reading it. So I definitely want to do more stuff in young kids lit and YA hopefully sometime.
Yeah, it's really cool, and it's got to be cool to have a book like at a Scholastic book fair. You know what I'm saying? Because we all loved those when we were kids, right? And there is a whole plethora of graphic fiction out there for kids it's a huge market, and kids need it too. You know what I'm saying?
And as an artist, like I was saying before, there's so many people who can tell a story, but there's so few who can really illustrate one well and tell a story in a fun way. And like every once in a while when I it was my daughter's 11th birthday the other day and I drew her a card and something like that. And I'm like agonizing over the way I'm drawing the feet on this little creature. And I'm like, what? And then I go read what is it? Captain Underpants or was it Dogman? Dogman's the other one. And it's like just fun, silly lines, and it's not taking itself so seriously. And there's like millions of kids reading it. And it's a great reminder to myself, like, get off your own ass and stop being such not everything has to look like Mike Mignola and Art Adams shit out of masterpiece.
I'd love a Mike Mignola kids book. That would be amazing, wouldn't it?
I love it.
So
I love it.
I would love it. Mike Mignola is one of my favorite artists, right outside of Kirby. It's him and Kirby. Those are my top 2.
That's a solid top 2.
Yeah, I mean, right? I mean, it's easy. Those are easy picks, though. Honestly. Right?
And then think about who Mignola got to back him up. It was Duncan Federico, right? Am I saying that right? Yeah, and he's like a stud of stud artist. Like he's unbelievable.
And he's also like, hey, Richard Corbin, you want to do some? Like Richard.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Yes, please. That would be awesome. R.I.P. Right? Great conversation, everybody. So now's the time, John. What you got? Plug, and you got.
Obviously, last ride of Power and Pride coming soon. We've got The Nasty, a book for Vault Comics. That's coming March next year. Really excited about that. Horror comedy again. Kind of like a coming of age book set in the 1990s against the backdrop of the Video Nasties Moral Panic. So much fun. This page has been coming in for that. It's taking shape nice. I think it's going to be a really special book. I'm really excited about it. I put all my love of horror in it. That's coming up soon. And once we get into next year, I'll be ramping up the promo for that. If you want to follow me, you can find me on Twitter, or for now, I don't know if Twitter might be on fire by this time next week, but for now, at John Lees 927. You can find my weekly newsletter at deepender.johnleescomics.com. That's deep-ender.johnleescomics.com. You get a free newsletter every week with essays and all the latest news. I also have a Patreon page, patreon.com/John Lees. where I share original prose stories. I share original like content. I do like a page-by-page breakdown of my various comics with commentary and talk about the process of making them. Currently working my way through, and then Emily was gone. But we also have 10 issues worth of sync content in there as well. A whole bunch of stuff available for a range of super affordable levels.
Nice. Everybody check that stuff out. What about you, Joe? Anything? What do you got to plug?
Look, you know about Pillar and Pride, and I can only draw one book at a time. So what I'm going to do is I'll take this time to say, if you want to hear any of my ramblings, it's at Joe Mulv, JOEMULV on Twitter. Yeah, I'm still there, Elon, mother. So then that's where I am. But beyond that, I can only do one book. Check out my feed. You'll have a great time. I scream about hockey and sometimes, post some artwork on there. But what I'm excited for is there's a lot coming down the pipe from a buddy of mine named Rich Dewick. You all know about him. He's going to be doing a magic book for Boom. He's got some stuff going out for Marvel, stuff going out for other pubs. He's got another book coming out with Alex Cormack from IDW that I may or may not
The Shadows is great.
A cover for. Who knows?
I'm just kind of upset he didn't use my idea for Scream of Skies, right? Like that's what I wanted. But
that's the Mad Lib that John and I talk about, that it's got to be blank of blank. So I presented Bag of Dicks. That was turned down.
I said pile of shite, but
yeah.
That's going to be their 6th or 7th collaboration.
Yeah. We should do like a Mad TV takeoff on the books, like where we just do like mockery books of it. So, but who knows? And then again, like all the guys I mentioned before, I'm very excited to read Matthew Rosenberg's Wildcats. I'm excited to see that book coming back soon. I don't know. I don't have much to plug myself, so I'm just going to plug other people.
Well, everybody needs to go check out Wailing Blade and Happy Hill and Pillar and Pride when it comes out. The Last Ride of Pillar and Pride. So everybody check out that book. It's really good. It's got Rockin' Robbie's seal of approval for sure. It was amazing. It's one of the best #1 Aftershocks I've read in a while. And there's some good Aftershock #1s an entire series. And they put some high quality into their first issues in particular. Brian, thanks for being here. John, thank you for being here. Joe, thank you for being here. And you watching, thank you for being here. Check out the work from these two fellows because they are making some dope comics. And we got to let Joe get back to that Jets game because I know what it's like. Anyway, we're dipping out. Station and what is this supposed to